she says, it feels like mini makers are really hitting the rotary market. Where do you think the tumbler market is going the next 3 months and also next year?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to say, because if you would have asked me this question 2 or 3 years ago, I'd have said it wasn't going anywhere. And a lot of it has to do with, I don't think you'll ever get away from personalizing items, because people always want them. It's not something that, it's not really a niche thing. It might kind of ebb and flow. It might have its high points and low points, but I think it's always going to steadily increase, especially with, what the manufacturers are doing that are making these things. They're making different sizes, different shapes, better quality, all this stuff. They're just continuing to advance it. And us as creators for rotaries, myself and others included, we got to keep up with that to make sure that you guys can continue to do that stuff as the demand rises.
Hey everybody, what's up, and welcome to the Laser Source Podcast, the #1 podcast if you want to listen to me talk about lasers while I am sick. I'm going to try not to talk too much today. You can hear it probably in my voice. It's better than it was this morning. You guys should have heard me this morning. It sounded like a monster. But we've got Boyce here hanging out. What's up, Boyce? Glad that you could be here as usual. Matt Bodiford is joining us today as a proud owner of multiple RotoBoss units. And then, of course, our special guest today, Jason Rife from RotoBoss. What's up, Jason? How you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? We're doing pretty good down here.
Dude, it's so sick to have you on. I'm stoked. We've been talking a lot lately. You've actually got one of these bad boys getting ready to go out into the mail to come over to the shop like really, really soon. So I'm stoked to get my hands on it.
Yeah, I was waiting for the new the 2.0, which we'll talk about. It's kind of sitting behind me there on the couch.
Yeah,
I was waiting for those to come in so you can get that. That's going to be the newest thing coming out later this year and the beginning of next year. So
for people who don't know, you're the owner of RotoBoss, right?
Yes.
What is RotoBoss? What do you do? How did you get there?
Well, it's a long story. 20 years in the Navy. The last probably 5 or 6 before I retired. I started getting into lasers and CNCs and things like that to expand my woodworking business. And then right around 2018, 2019, I got more into the laser side of things, and started making a bunch of products for other rotaries and things like that, like the clamping kits and material hold down kits for like the Boss lasers, Thunder lasers, thing like that. And then basically it boiled down to, I mean, I've been doing this for about 10 years, and anybody that's been doing this for a while knows that, up until about 3 years ago, and when myself and some other people started making some rotary devices or improved rotary devices compared to what we were using, doing stuff, tumblers, cups, glass, things like that, was just a bear. It wasn't pleasurable at all. So I'd say probably about mid 2018, I decided to kind of tinker, because I was already using the 3D printers and things like that. So I decided to kind of try to make my own rotary, just something for me to have.
Yeah.
Never really intended to sell it. Never, intended it to get to where it is today. But so I had my own device, probably around early 2019. Started thinking about maybe selling it. So started kind of refining it, playing around with it, trying to entertain the idea of maybe selling it. And then probably around September, I would say, started getting serious about it, and decided to make a go of it. Did a couple feelers to see if people would be interested, because obviously I was already doing stuff for a year or so, making mods to fix other rotaries. So it kind of became the next logical step.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are on board with it. I know Matt has a couple of them from, I don't know if he still has the ones from a couple years ago, but it got a couple of those, and there's some other people that are still running the old ones that were made of acrylic and 3D printed parts, because everything was bootstrapped.
Yeah, I've got both of those, and they're still awesome, dude. They still crank stuff out all the time, flawless.
That's good. There's a lot of changes since then, a lot of improvements. The business has pretty much been bootstrapped from the beginning. I had about $1,000 in my bank account for my business.
Nice.
And that's kind of where it started from. I'd sell some. I was making everything by hand. I was cutting shafts. I was laser cutting the panels, 3D printing the parts. I mean, it was a real trip. It was more or less, I wanted a hobby that made, a little bit of extra money on the side.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just ballooned into this over the years. So as I've kind of progressed, I've, invested the money back into the business, improved the quality of the parts, the machining, to where we are now, where everything's all metal, and has been since probably about October, November last year.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, a little backstory on how it got to where it is, but everything stemmed off of basically just doing woodwork out of my garage to make a couple extra bucks while I was in the military.
The most surprising part of that story to me is actually that it has only really existed since 2019. I thought that it was much older than that. So the fact that you're sitting here saying 2019 is kind of mind blowing to me, because it feels like a much more mature product than 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of time and effort went into making it, because it really boiled down to, as you guys probably know that's been doing it for a while, it boiled down to all the deficiencies that the other rotaries had. I basically tried to encompass all those into my product.
Right.
So, and my goal, the original one that came out was the RotoBoss with the twin towers and the lead screws and everything, because I don't know if you've seen it, but it's called the AutoBoss, which runs off of Lightburn with a GRBL, and you can actually control it. You can set programs for each different cup. So you just click a button and it automatically goes to it and everything. So that was kind of the original plan,
right?
When it started out, and that's why I went with the lead screws. But it was just taking all those things that were wrong and fixing them and improving them, making them better. And my goal was to essentially eliminate the need for a chuck.
Yeah. And so I just want to give people an idea, because I know, but I want everybody else to know too, especially new listeners. This is a popular product. This is not like some weird random startup. How many rotary tools do you think you've sold in your lifetime in business?
Since the start, probably just shy of 4,000.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy, right, boys?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
I mean,
that is impressive, especially considering, and I feel like we have to talk about this up front. I wanna get this out of the way early, but it's especially considering the price. It's no secret that the RotoBoss is like the most expensive rotary tool you can buy for your laser. Shed some light on where that price comes from, what goes into that number, so that we can kind of like justify that to some of the viewers, because when you compare to some of your competitors, like the Mansfield or even the Pyburn, right? The RotoBoss it's significant added cost, and I'm sure that it's validated, but I want to give you a chance to talk about why.
Okay, well, I'll preface this with the junior is the kind of the lower end of things on as far as the rotaries, and that's kind of where that stemmed from, is because the price of the RotoBoss is so high. Because when I first started, my goal was to have a premium product.
Yeah,
I wasn't trying to be, selling 10,000 Pintos.
Right.
I was trying to sell 100 Ferraris. So my goal has always been to have the best product that I could I could give to people. And unfortunately, through that process, the way I came up, I wasn't able to offer what I offer now to people back then, with the quality and everything. But as the progression happened, the price kind of followed suit with the upgrade in the quality and the material and everything else that was involved in it. Now, the RotoBoss, like I said, at that time, what was it, 2019, there wasn't really there was nothing like that on the market.
Right.
There was other things like Pyburn had theirs, their smaller version, their single lift version, but no one had anything like I had, and it was kind of, I don't know how to really say it. I mean, I kind of made my own price.
Yeah.
Based on the value that it gave to me, and that I felt that it would give to others. It
was unprecedented for sure, right? Like,
well,
it was.
I mean, you gotta consider back then. One of the laser companies, I won't mention names, but one of the lasers companies was selling their flat rotary for like $900.
Right. Yeah.
The rickety scissor lift flat rotary was like $900, and I'm thinking, okay, well, obviously my RotoBosses weren't that much back then,
right?
Because they weren't worth it,
right?
But like I said, as things kind of progressed, the value went up with it, and it was. And I hate to say that I named my own price, but it was always in progression according to what I did to it. So it wasn't like a $1,400 rotary today cost $1,400 back then. I think my RotoBosses cost like $500, maybe $600 back then.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, it's just been a steady progression, and people have kind of understood it, I guess. I mean,
so kind of what I'm. Let me paraphrase for you a little bit. Let me know if I'm right, but we started at a high price because you were going after the premium market, and you had something at the time when you came into the market that nobody else could offer that has value, and then. From there on, you've continually made improvements to these products and upgraded the quality of the materials and the build, and thus the price has increased along with that accordingly.
Correct.
Yeah, that's totally. We're all about transparency here on Laser Everything.
Yeah.
Man. If you want to say you made your own price, fuck, it is what it is, dude. Obviously, people agree with the value that they're getting out of your products, because if they didn't, you wouldn't have sold 4,000 since 2019. You know what I mean? Like that says something, dude. And what that says to me is that people are finding that they're getting their money's worth purchasing RotoBoss Rotary Attachments, and they're telling other people that they are happy with that experience. It's the only way you get to $4,000 or 4,000 units sold for a premium product like this. Is if you've got that positive word of mouth. So, I absolutely agree. I think it's an awesome unit. I'm so excited to get my hands on my own, and I know it's coming. I really, really can't wait. And I think it's going to be really evident when it arrives here at the shop. Prediction, the differences between that and some of the competitors, because I know one of the things I'm going to do the second that it comes in is I'm going to put it head to head with the Pyburn and the Mansfield. I think that's really going to be a great opportunity to allow the qualities that make the RotoBoss special really apparent and shine. What were you going to say, boys? Sorry, I kind of rolled over you there.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, how much do you decide to sell the first smartphone for the first computer, for the first car?
Right.
There is no precedence, and you get to kind of decide the market. And there's a lot of labor that people don't see behind the scenes when it comes to the R&D of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sweat equity involved there that you've got to get recovered.
Not to mention, I mean, on that point, you're still building these by yourself, right, Jason?
Well, no.
Okay, that's okay.
That's awesome.
Good for congratulations, right?
Let's see. Well, my business, JER Custom Designs, is I have other things too, like laser engraving, sublimation, and vinyl graphics, UV printing, all that stuff.
Got your hands everywhere, yeah.
So I have my hands in all that stuff right now, and then I have 4 guys that work for me that do nothing but just pound out these rotaries all day, every day.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's so crazy, man.
And we're shipping out probably probably close to 100 a month. Close to 100 a month, probably.
So you're kind of making my point for me, because what I was going after was that there is a human being assembling these, and what you're saying is there's 4. so
I mean, we have our stuff manufactured. Like all the designs are mine, and every piece and part of it, besides the milled, because everything's solid billet aluminum, CNC milled. So there's no extruded aluminum or any of that stuff.
Yep.
So I went with the best quality product I could get, but all that stuff's manufactured obviously elsewhere.
Sure.
And brought in. But every single piece and part that goes into them rotaries is assembled by my guys here. Yep. And we do everything, ship them. I mean, I handle all the tech support or anything that comes along with it, which is usually pretty minimal. There has been a kind of uptick with a new update with the software, but hopefully that'll get resolved soon.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I've been able to devote my time to doing other things like improving these rotaries I got behind me from previous versions. Because up until this point, it's been November 1st will be 3 years. That's the birthday of RotoBoss is November 1st.
Awesome. Happy birthday. It's coming right up.
That'll be in November, and these here are kind of like the 3-year anniversary kind of upgrade from what I've been doing for the past 3 years. And remarkably, you can pretty much take anything. Like Matt's got some older units, he said, and you can basically take any of the new components that I have now and put them on that rotary, on that platform, and it fits.
So it's like a Jeep then.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, my whole thing was, because for me, this is not about the money. Never has been, never will be. My thing was to give somebody something they can use forever, essentially.
The best businesses exist because they're solving problems, right?
Well, I didn't want to have people, because like my rotaries, you can put a NEMA 17 motor on it or a NEMA 23. It's all the plate is already preset for either of those motors. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. I've sold stuff to people that have a $900 diode laser. I've sold them a $1,400 laser, and they love it.
Right.
But my goal in doing that, to where you can basically go back and put new stuff on old stuff, was I didn't want people to have to keep buying new rotaries all the time.
Yeah.
You can just upgrade them with the stuff that I already have. So I've tried to keep the design the same. Now with the V2, that kind of goes away because everything's totally new.
At some point, in order to improve the product, you have to let go of some backwards compatibility, Yeah. But I mean, the lengths that you've gone to make sure that backwards compatibility for the V1 stuff has remained is evident when you pop onto your site. I mean, when you're just poking through your shop, more of the listings on your store online are upgrade parts than they are actual listings for rotary tools. So there's a ton of room across that V1 life span, right, to be able to keep up with the newer models. With the V2, are you planning on doing the same thing? Like for whatever lifetime that the V2 experiences, are you going to be making those kind of like bonus parts or upgrade parts available to people who purchase them?
Well, I mean, the V2 is pretty much, it's basically taken everything tried and true from, if you want to call it the V1, and rolled it kind of into the V2 with some slight differences, and adjustability, flexibility, kind of, being user friendly, kind of aspects of it, more kind of, I guess flexibility, because you could do more objects and things with it. I really focused on trying to make them, obviously better than what they were,
right?
Because I plan on probably selling these for another 2 or 3 years before I come out with something else. But so yeah, but for the V2 and the V1, they're the only backwards compatibility would be like the bearing blocks, the wheels, things like that. The plates are all the plates are different, so you can't just take one and put it on the other.
Right.
Like you could with the V1 or the previous version. You could take the old plates like what Matt has. You can swap plate for plate, use the same parts, or upgrade the metal. I also have, if someone has the old version, I have a trade-in, trade-up policy, basically.
Nice.
Where you ship it in as like a core charge, and then you pay a discounted rate for a brand new off-the-line rotary.
That's smart.
So, and also like the towers and stuff on them, not the towers, but the crossbar. If you notice on the one side, you'll see two holes that go to nothing on the junior or even the low roller. Those were there, one as a multi-purpose, so I could use them on either the RotoBoss or the junior, but also as an upgradable option for someone that has a junior already that wanted to add the function of the RotoBoss to it, which is the other tower. So there's several things that were kind of built into it, like on the control arm or the slave wheel arm that goes up and down. There's an oval hole, so you can get to the lead screw bracket without having to disassemble the whole arm. So I mean, there's a lot went into it. I like to think I covered all my bases. I mean, obviously I did something right because almost 3 years later, and I'm still running on the same platform I had. So obviously something was done right, but improvements have been made and to kind of make it better.
So can people buy these V2 versions now, or is this something that's coming out later?
It's going to be coming out later. I'm doing a short run of them later this year for Christmas, because I don't plan on rolling them out until next year, 2023. But I decided to do a short run of them, and I'll be posting that on the Facebook pages and things. Right. To do a short run of 50 for Christmas, if anybody's interested. And then after that,
will that be the same version that you're sending over to the shop?
Yes.
Awesome. Cool.
Oh,
you're getting the new one.
Nice.
You're getting the one that will be released later this year.
And
then,
so that's actually a really good segue for me, because one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we absolutely talked about, and I want to make sure we have time for it, which is why I'm asking early. There are a lot of RotoBosses, like a lot. You have a lot of different models, and it makes a difference what machine you have will greatly depend on, or which model you pick up rather, greatly depends on the machine that you have and some of your dimensions inside of your workspace.
Yes.
Can you kind of run me through that a little bit and just kind of let me know what some of those different models are?
Well, I'm going to bring up the screen for that, okay?
Yeah, awesome. Let's see it.
All right. So essentially we have 3 different rotaries. I know they're doubled up there because they're different setups for fiber and CO2. But the main ones we have is RotoBoss, which is the dual towers. We have the Junior, which is a single tower. And then we have the low roller, which was my answer to basically the hot dog roller. Really low slung, low profile for doing like the Eon, the Miras, the K40s, the Thunder, Nova 24 for a while. Now you can actually use the Junior or the RotoBoss in all of the Thunder machines now. But so it started out, you got the RotoBoss, the Junior, and the low roller, and you can have them in 2 different sizes. You got the full size, which is 21 inches long, and then you have a compact, which is 15 and a half. And mainly the reason for the compact was Boss Laser, because when I made this, Boss Laser was the only thing I had. So that was kind of my audience at the time. And a lot of people had the 14, 16, 1420 lasers, which you can't put a full size rotary in it. So you make the smaller one that would fit down in the tray in the bottom.
Right.
So that's kind of where the compact and full size come from. Now the reason for all these different versions, obviously the RotoBoss was the premium product. That's the top of the line, the best you can get.
Right.
And then the Junior was made shortly after the RotoBoss to kind of get into like the cheaper side of things, or the lower cost or lower budget side of things.
Right. More of a mid-range option.
Yep. And then back then also, if you guys recall or not, like Thunder and Eon had both gone through a transition period and started to grow.
Right.
About 3 years ago. And I worked with both of them early on, and the problem is my stuff didn't work in all their machines. So that's kind of why we have so many, and that's why the low roller was made, because they had Eon had the Mirror 5, 7, and 9, and a regular rotary wouldn't fit in there without taking the blades out, which at the time people didn't like to do that.
I don't like to do that now, man.
So putting the low roller actually sits on the blades.
Got it.
And actually, so you don't have to remove the blades. And it still allows you to be able to work inside of the Mirrors and the Novas and all the Thunder and Eon lasers, K40s, things like that.
Right.
So that's where the low roller came from, because the Junior was just a little bit too big to work. So that's kind of how the low roller came about. Now we have 3.
So when we were talking, you were saying that the V2 Junior will actually fit in some of those machines. Is that right?
Well, the Junior and the RotoBoss now will fit in the Thunder machines. The Junior will fit in the Mirrors, but you have to take the blades out.
Right.
Even with the new one that I'm sending you, you have to take the blades out. There's unfortunately there's no way around it.
There's no way around it
because of the aspect and size of it.
Right.
It's just not practical.
Got it.
But we've made it as easy as we can. The feet on the bottom are adjustable.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get yours will be pre-adjusted. So basically all you do is you take it, you set it in the tray, slide it all the way to the front of the bed.
Yep.
Up against the bed, and that's it. You're done.
Nice.
If your bed is square,
then
you should be square with the head, and
awesome.
Everything just kind of falls into place that way.
Yeah, and it's an Eon, so it should be square. That bed better be square, right?
Yeah,
totally.
So now with the Thunder, we made the drop down brackets, which actually attach to the blades, and now you can actually raise and lower the rotary below the blades with the table.
Awesome.
So you don't have to set it in the bottom and then prop it up with wood or whatever to get it high enough to use. You can actually raise and lower it with the bed.
That's
because
so cool,
it's suspended from the blades.
Yeah.
So, and then the low roller is actually basically kind of being phased out. It is still available, obviously, on my site if people are interested in it.
Right.
That's more shifted to the fiber side of things, because it is compact, low slung and everything, so it's easy to fit in, like the Thunder Aurora, their fiber laser. We have one that goes into that. You can also use it on OMG or whoever else you have as far as a laser, and it just attaches to your bed, and with the attachments it automatically kind of squares it up to the laser.
So you saying that's going to be phased out? Is there anything that's coming in that will replace that, so that the fiber guys don't have to go out and all buy like 800 millimeter towers in order to use a rotary tool?
Well, the Junior itself is actually, you can actually put the Junior in the Aurora as well.
Okay, great.
So you can use a 110 millimeter lens and still be fine with the standard tower.
Right.
And that's one of the improvements that was made to the Junior, is everything was basically dropped lower.
Sure.
So it's basically kind of a midpoint between the old Junior, which is currently on the market, and the low roller, in the sense that it's basically gonna fill two roles, because over these 3 years it's been such a hassle trying to keep up with parts and pieces for all these different machines.
Right.
And it's not too bad with the RotoBoss and the Junior, because they share probably 80% 85% of their parts are shared
Right.
and universal, whereas the low roller is almost completely different. So that's kind of why we've done away with that. I mean, it's
That
still
makes
available,
perfect sense. Yeah.
but it's basically kind of like a request, or if someone sees it, wants it. But you can use the new junior on a fiber without any issues, and you can use the old one too. I've got some videos on YouTube of using it on the compact version of it, smaller, so it sits right on top of the actual pegboard bed. So
the new junior, the V2 junior, is essentially kind of like a hybrid of the low roller and the old junior, height wise.
Yeah.
It's filling both of those.
Essentially, yes. There's like, this is the new one here. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the Junior 2.0.
So cool.
And you can kind of see how this is kind of low slung.
Yep.
Everything, because it used to come basically straight across the top here.
Right.
So I've dropped about 30 millimeters on this side, and I've also dropped, basically, you're almost touching the ground with this all the way to the bottom.
Got it.
So this is as low as it can go. This is as low as it could theoretically go. I mean, it could go a little bit lower, I'm sure. But yeah, so
it's pretty dang low. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, that's the new one. That's basically what you'll be getting.
It's beautiful, man. I'm so excited. And it's the V2s are all metal design still, right?
Yeah, everything's all metal on them.
Yeah.
There's the only non-metal you have is like your guide rails or your guide wheels and the bearing race covers.
Right.
I mean, and the O-rings. And then this is the RotoBoss 2.0.
So pretty.
And it's also been modified in the same regards, just not quite as drastic.
Right.
Basically just tried to cut some of the fat out of it, because just the plates originally, when they were made,
right,
they were made out of acrylic. So they had to be pretty beefy to withstand shipping and handling and use and everything like that.
Yeah. So
this was my chance to basically cut out all the fat that was on them previously, and make them a little bit, more aesthetically pleasing, a little bit more functional. Like one of the functions that we have that we integrated into the all metal ones last year when we started, because a lot of people would complain about, well, mine has the lead screw, Pi's doesn't, other people's don't. You can't make quick adjustments or anything, but we've made it to where you can literally push the tower. You can still do your fine adjustments. There's a release spring on the backside. You just pull it out.
Nice.
You push it in. I mean, it's that simple. So that's one of the improvements we made. We also made the improvement to, let me get the camera here. You can actually remove the lead screw, and then we've added a friction lock right here. So you can actually take the lead screw off and have free play of the slider and lock it down with the friction lock there in the track.
Cool.
So there's a couple different things you can do with it that way.
We do have a question from a live viewer right now.
Okay.
Show regular Boba the Fets is asking, how well does that do with mugs with handles now that you've made it so low? Have you experimented with that? How is the performance there?
Yeah, it hasn't affected anything, and the main reason is because of the wheels and the way that the mug would sit on the wheels, because the wheels themselves are 56 millimeters, so they're a little over 2 inches in diameter.
Right.
So, and most handles are about 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches. I've done those big glass beer mugs that have like almost a 3-inch handle on them.
Yeah.
And there's no problem. They don't hit the motor, because that's another thing that a lot of people are like, well, you got the motor on the inside, things are going to hit it. But like I said, the way everything was designed, all that was taken into account when they were made, as far as the placement and everything, because I didn't want it hanging off the back, because that adds more length or more width to the rotary.
Right.
and I didn't want that slung weight off the end of it, one, and two, I didn't want that. I wanted to make it as compact as I possibly could.
Yep.
So that's where that is. But with the rotaries themselves, they have the mug spacers and stuff that attach to the front of the clip. And there's also a heel cap that slips over the heel plate that it's eccentric, so you can put it one way or flip it around the other way, and it takes up that space accordingly to how you put it on there. And what that does is it spaces your handles away from the wheel, the mass of the wheel, so they don't hit when they rotate.
I wanted to ask you too, just as a follow-up, how does the RotoBoss specifically deal with the weight of handles? Because one of the struggles that I've run into when I'm using rotary is that most of the handles are just so damn heavy that it's just constantly drooping and falling, and like the motors and wheels are fighting that extra weight. Does the RotoBoss do anything specific to make dealing with those easier?
I mean, it's a hard question to answer because every situation's different.
Yeah, of course.
But in general, no. And there's a couple reasons. One is kind of the way the clamp is made. It's never intended to sit parallel. It's always got an up or a downward cant to it inside the object. Right. So it basically pulls it in and pulls it down at the same time. But with the rotary, it comes with a small diameter wheel, which you can use for pretty much anything. And it also comes with a wheel that's about double the size. Okay. That you swap out and put on, and that would, I mean, my personal rotaries, I leave the big wheel on because I can still do everything with it, but it also adds that extra bit of clamping force. Right, because
the larger surface area that it's touching.
Well, the larger surface area and the compression of the spring.
Okay, got it.
The compression of the spring is greater, which gives you more downforce inside the cup.
So the answer is really yes, because it comes with both of those wheels. That's awesome. I didn't even know that. So that's really, so the actual clamp that you're using to clamp things down, it has a wheel that you can change out depending on the object that you're using.
Yes.
Oh, dude, that's so cool.
And the RotoBoss itself actually comes with, I call it the bottle clamp, and nowadays that's kind of probably not the right name for it, because back when I made it, all we had were wine bottles, beer bottles, things like that. Sure. Small cylindrical objects that you couldn't clamp on the inside. Now we have, quote unquote water bottles, JDS, Yeti. It doesn't work for those. Right. But consequently, even on a 32 ounce cup or bigger with the opening, you can actually put that clamp in there, and it spreads the force outward and downward at the same time to give it stability for like dog bowls, things like that. It gives that outward stability, and it also clamps it down as well at the same time, because it's two wheels parallel that add pressure onto whatever object you're doing.
Does all this stuff come standard with the RotoBoss when you order it?
Well, for the RotoBoss, because what I used to do is I used to have accessory packs. Like you buy the rotary, and then you could buy magnet feet, bottle clamp, this, that, and the other. When I went all metal last year, everything comes with it. You get magnet feet. You get for the RotoBoss, you'll get the mug spacers, the heel spacer, and the bottle clamp. And on the Junior, it doesn't come with the bottle clamp because it was never really intended to work with that, because just for what it was made for. Right. So that doesn't come with it, but it comes with everything else. The magnet feet, the heel plate, or the mug spacers, the heel spacer, all that stuff comes with it. As well as
kind of brings us back around to that price too, right? I mean, you're not just getting a rotary, you're not getting a box with a rotary tool in it. Like, you're getting all this other stuff that makes it more user friendly and makes it easier to use in like a huge variety of situations. This is the stuff I really wanted to make sure that we talked about and didn't miss while we have you on today, because it's important. It matters, and it's huge. I mean, that's so cool. I never ever would have known that if I didn't ask just now. Like, it never would have occurred to me. I would have opened up the box when it came in the mail, and I would have been like, "What's this wheel?" Like, so that's really cool, dude.
Yeah. So we tried to go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about the software. Is there any kind of software limitations? Does this thing is pretty much universal for everything? EasyCAD or whatnot, Lightburn?
Right now, I coin it as it'll run on anything that runs Lightburn, RWorks, or on a Trojan controller, GRBL. It'll basically work on anything. I've had it on pretty much everything. A lot of the diode lasers, things like that. So the software really doesn't limit it. It comes down to the motor. A lot of people are like, "Hey, will your rotary work with this machine?" Well, yes, it'll work with every laser. It'll even work with Epilog, Trotec, all that stuff, if you have the right motor to drive it, and the software to of course be able to do that. So yes, it does work on everything basically that runs on any of those controllers. Verita, I think OM Tech has some other, I forget the name of it, but they have a different controller that's not Verita, but it still runs on that. GRBL, EasyCAD, Lightburn, yeah, pretty much everything.
Nice.
That's good to know.
While we're on that topic, we have more questions. I want to make sure that they don't get away from us.
Sorry, I'm not watching the chat. I'm trying
it's okay. That's my job. But before we get back to questions, just really quick, because we are talking about software, just wanted to ask, as far as like figuring out like your gear ratio and steps per rotation, and like a lot of that setup can be like really mind-numbingly like difficult. Is it really hard with the RotoBoss, or do they all kind of run the same specs and you get a list, or can you just talk to me about that a little?
Well, the goal was to basically try to get as close to a 1-to-1 ratio that I could.
Yeah.
So that's why all the pulleys are the same size. I don't have the 20 millimeter and the 40s on the wheels like most other rotaries, because it lends itself more to acting like a chuck than it does a rotary at that point, or a regular roller rotary at that point.
Right.
Because when I first set this up, I actually set it up to work as a chuck. So like in Lightburn, you would check chuck instead of roller.
Right.
But over the course of time, we figured out, you can do it either way. But essentially, if you set it up properly, take 15 minutes to set it up, do a couple tests, dial in your settings. If you do it the way that I recommend, typically you don't have any issues from anything. I've done things from a shot glass all the way up to a 30-ounce tumbler and haven't had to change anything.
Right.
Haven't had to really modify the image or anything. Now that's not to say that it doesn't change, because it does.
Sure.
But it's so minute that visually by the eye you're not going to see it. You might see it, but your customer's probably definitely not going to see it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So it's definitely.
All right. I know I've got choppy.
Oh, it's okay. What's up, man?
I was gonna say I know I've got choppy audio, but I want to jump in and talk about it because I love this product, man. So I've been using it for almost 3 years now. And it's one of those things where literally everything he said is so true. I've talked to so many people who have questions and they're like, "Hey, I can't get my roller to work. I can't do these things." And honestly, as someone who's been doing this for like 2.5, 3 years, I can't help them because I'm like, well, I bought a product. I followed the instructions when I went to install it and everything worked fine. And they're like, "Well, shit." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sorry." And so it's tough to just like, when you're talking about cost, like the two things that he's already mentioned that you guys have all mentioned too is like the amount of product that you're not going to mess up. Like I think my loss on this is like 1% at best. So I run 100 cups. There's usually one mess up, and it's probably because of me, because I was moving too fast. The ease, the sake of time that you're saving just by having a product that's so easy to like plug and play if you follow the instructions. And I mean, there was some tweaking involved, but like you said, you figure it out pretty quick. And most of the stuff you can manipulate by using Lightburn to make it fit what your product is you're trying to do. And the other thing too that I mentioned earlier is cost isn't value, right? So it's one of those things where anytime you buy a tool, it's going to cost you money, but the value that you're getting from it is so inherently greater, like just from the amount of time and all that stuff. It's really a great product. So I appreciate it, man. I've been trying to be quiet because my mic is all messed up, but thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
We do have some questions in the stream here too.
Yeah, can we get Matt's from Alicia first?
Yeah,
I just want to make sure we don't miss that one.
Yep, I got it right here. This is from Alicia. She says, it feels like many makers are really hitting the rotary market. Where do you think the tumbler market is going the next 3 months and also next year?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to say, because if you would have asked me this question 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said it wasn't going anywhere. And a lot of it has to do with, I don't think you'll ever get away from personalizing items.
Mm-hmm.
Because people always want them. It's not something that, it's not really a niche thing. It might kind of ebb and flow. It might have its high points and low points, but I think it's always going to steadily increase, especially with, what the manufacturers are doing that are making these things. They're making different sizes, different shapes, better quality, all this stuff. They're just continuing to advance it. And us as creators for rotaries, myself and others included, we got to keep up with that to make sure that you guys can continue to do that stuff as the demand rises.
Right.
So for me, I mean, if there's any questions or if there's anything that I can do to help improve the product itself, I'm always open to suggestions to try to make things fit, the situations that you might have. But like I said, it's really hard to answer that question straight and kind of get it right. I think it's just going to have a steady incline. Obviously, at some point, it's going to have to kind of taper or kind of level off. But I think it's probably mid-stroke and growing. So I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon.
What do you think about the saturation of personalized tumblers in the market as it stands right now? Do you think that it's a big problem and everybody should be worried that there's no more room left in the industry? Or do you think it's more the good stuff is always going to rise to the top and there's enough space in the high end of that market that it's not really a concern?
I think, and my view on it has always been what you value your worth. If you value your worth and your product shows, people are going to come to you. I mean, in my market here where I'm at in Jacksonville, Florida, I mean, there's so many, I call it mom and pops, but just people working out of their garage or their living room. And they're making money. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's one of those things. If you don't take it seriously, and you don't value your worth and the product that you put out, you're not going to last. I mean, that's like you said, with the cream rises to the top. I mean, that's true. I mean, I've seen so many people fail, for several reasons, but generally it's probably because, they didn't take it seriously. They didn't value their worth. They tried to compete with the market and undercut and basically run themselves out of business. I mean, that's, and to me, I've never done that as a business. I set my prices. If people don't value what I have to offer, I mean, I understand that, right. But I value my products, whether it's the rotaries or the products I put out here locally. I put them at a high regard and I charge for it. I mean,
that's nice, man. We came full circle on that. I like that. That's a good answer. That was a very good answer. And total just lane change here. But Bobo's back. He's asking, is there a max weight? I engrave shells for 5-inch rounds and they can be heavy.
No. I mean, I've had them sitting on the shelf and I can basically push myself up off the towers and they don't move.
Right.
Well, especially the metal. Yeah. The steel.
Well, it's just the way that with the type of lead screw they are and all that stuff. There's a lot to that.
Right.
Because I don't know if you know about lead screws, but and
Not
they
a
had the
thing.
back.
Not a thing.
I'm in healthcare. I know phones.
The anti-backlash nuts basically act as a lock, so to speak. So with those, the type of lead screws that I use are different, and that's one of the reasons they move so slow. And some people complain about it, but I mean, there's reasons I do it, and it's not to make people mad because it goes slow. It's just it's part of the function.
Yeah.
But to answer that question, no, I don't know of any limit. I mean,
If you can do a freaking push-up on it, I mean, like, I would say that's probably sufficient. If you're like trying to rotary engrave something heavier than you,
a human.
Yeah.
like, is it nuclear waste? Like, I don't understand what you're putting on there. That's that heavy. You probably
Like
should be engraving like nuclear waste
brake calipers,
barrels.
I mean, I probably wouldn't recommend putting anything over probably 20 or 30 pounds on it. And
That's fair.
if you get that much weight on it, one, I'd like to see the pictures of the video.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing?
of what that is. I mean, I've had people do scuba tanks.
Right.
The smaller scuba tanks, and I don't know how much they weigh. Probably 5 pounds, 10 pounds, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And they've worked, but other than that, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
That's right. It's good enough.
That's a good enough answer for me. That's
Damn
funny.
right.
Well, we are just about at our hour. This seems like a good stopping point. Are you down to hang out with us for a bonus episode today, Jason?
Absolutely.
Sweet. So
I'm here for everybody else. So
awesome. So if you guys want to listen to us shoot the shit with Jason, you know how the bonus episodes go, guys. Totally off topic, weird, random, just conversation, just hanging out. If you want to experience that, wow, I really, now that I'm doing the outro, I'm feeling the throat. Go sign up for the LMA if you're not already a member. We are a contributor supported channel. We exist because people spend their hard-earned money making sure we continue to exist. So if you want to be one of those people, go check it out over at masters.lasereverything.net. We'll have this bonus episode up for you in a day or two, and you'll get to spend even more time hanging out with Jason, me, and the guys. So go check that out. If you want a RotoBoss, links down in the description, straight to Jason's shop, where you can find all of the different models. One final question for you, Jason, before we leave for the night. And be honest, because I want honesty on Laser Everything. Should people buy a RotoBoss now or wait for V2?
the price is not projected to change.
Okay.
So I can safely say that. So I mean, if they want something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing and a little bit more flexible, then yeah, I said the V2 would be worth waiting for. But
they're not getting a bad, outdated product if they bite on a RotoBoss now.
No, especially the RotoBoss, because the RotoBoss, I mean, I've made some minor changes to it, mainly aesthetics.
Right.
So the RotoBoss, absolutely not. I mean, you're going to get the most flexible and versatile rotary there is on the market out of that machine.
Yep.
The Junior, you'll get a little bit more adjustability. Like you'll be able to do more water bottles and type stuff with this Junior that you couldn't do with the other Junior without like propping up one side or flipping the cup around or all that stuff. So you do have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to that. And like I said, probably around the first part of October,
okay,
I'll probably be releasing the first 50 for the short run that we're doing. And those will pretty much be shipping out as they're ordered. Okay. So there won't be any wait time besides, it's usually a week, especially when we're building them to order like that. About a week to ship and deliver and get to you. So I mean, if you want to wait a couple months, you're more than welcome to. You're not getting anything less, really, with what I have now.
Yeah, great.
It's just going through a transition from one to another.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. And if I'm remembering correctly, is it RotaryAttachments.com? Is that right?
Yes.
RotaryAttachments.com. Again, guys, link down in the description if you want to pick one of those up. Are you on socials? See anywhere else that you'd want people to know about? You want to plug real quick?
Yeah, we're on Facebook, the RotoBoss Rotary Attachments, and created with RotoBoss Rotary Attachments. Instagram is RotoBoss.
Cool.
I just got it started, so
I'm sure if you search it, it'll come up, right?
Oh yeah, it's there. So Instagram's there.
Cool.
And obviously I got YouTube channel, the RotoBoss YouTube channel, as well as the JER Custom Design, which has some of my older stuff when I first created it, and kind of things like that.
Yeah, sweet. And RANC projects right here at the end. I'm not sure I heard that properly, but it will work with a fiber laser. Yeah, he's got rotaries listed on his shop. Again, rotaryattachments.com, specifically listed to work with fiber lasers. So that shouldn't be a problem.
If you order one for fiber laser, you're going to get a phone call. Just because there's so many different ones.
Totally.
So many different ones, it's easier just to give them a call and figure out the motor setup that they need to fit their unit. But it's pretty painless.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming on the podcast with me, dude. It was really, really great to have you on. I learned a lot that I did not know about your product or company. I went into this interview kind of blind, not like totally blind. I did a little research, but not enough. And I learned a lot about you and your products and your company. And I feel like that much better about having the RotoBoss come in now. I'm really excited to play with it, dude. So thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to come on and hang out with us.
Not a problem. Available anytime. If anybody knows how to get a hold of me, they can get a hold of me. I won't hesitate to help. Talk to you.
Very cool.
I'm looking forward to the review.
Yeah, it's coming, dude. It's coming. As soon as it gets in, we're going to start that 3-way rotary challenge, and then they're all going to get reviews. It's going to be like Rotary Month in Q4 this year. We've got a lot coming on that. And, boys, Matt, thank you so much for swinging in to say, hey, Matt, I'm sorry your audio's not working super great, but we'll get you sorted so that we can get you on the podcast. I know people really love when we have you on, so we'll make sure that we get that taken care of so we can hear a little bit more from you. And hopefully I can not be sick by the next time we are recording a podcast. I'm finally back here in the studio. I'm finally back, and then I'm like, I'm sick and I can't talk. So, whatever. But that's it, guys. That's all I've got. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys came here live or if you're listening to this after the fact, don't forget, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, rate and review. 5-star review goes a long way in helping the podcast get discovered. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.